This is the Amazing Teacher Podcast with Sam Rangel, episode number 23.
Welcome to the Amazing Teacher Podcast, where we sit down with amazing educators and pick their brains for tips, strategies, and ideas that you can take into your classrooms and be amazing. Now, here's your host, Sam Rangel.
Welcome, amazing teachers, to the 23rd episode of the Amazing Teacher Podcast. This is Sam from successintheclassroom.com, and I want to thank you for downloading the podcast, and I really appreciate you stopping by and listening to my conversations with these amazing teachers. Today, I have Jeff Shoemaker, better known online as the Gifted Teacher. He has an amazing blog where he shares his insights on teaching gifted students. Now, what is a gifted student? We might think that all our students are gifted in some way or another, but if you haven't already encountered this, you're going to have students in your class who have either been identified as gifted or are exhibiting characteristics that might qualify them to be identified as gifted. And how do you reach them? How do you connect with them? How do you provide that enriching education and engaging lesson to gifted students? And Jeff shares just what these characteristics are that identify gifted students and how to provide that right education for them. Jeff also talked about being that positive role model every day. And this is so good. You know, amazing teachers are positive every day. It's not easy, but amazing teachers leave the negativity outside. And Jeff just reiterates that in the podcast. So today I am so happy to have without Jeff further ado, Shoemaker let's get from right into the interview with amazing teacher on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Jeff Shoemaker.
Thanks,
Ready?
welcome.
Here we go. Well, thank you again for taking time out of your day to sit down and let me pick your brain. I'm really excited about our conversation. Before we begin, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your teaching career, how you got into teaching, and why you became a teacher?
Yes. Let me start out. I'm a father. That's my main role in life. I have a blended family. I have 8 total children. We've got 6 boys and 2 girls, ranging from 20 to 4. So I have a big range, and several of my kids have all gone through the gifted program here in my school. Probably the one thing that defines me as a teacher is my passion. I tried to be like those teachers that I had back in the 80s. For me, middle school was probably the most important time of my life, and I think that's what drove me to be a middle school teacher. I'd known from the time I was probably in 8th grade that I wanted to be a middle school teacher, and so in a sense, I kind of honor those who taught me, and I came into this profession with that in mind. I do teach, right now I teach gifted children, 7th and 8th graders. I teach in a pull-out program. We do a program that's set up where the kids come once a week, and they're with me about 5 hours at a time. And we do different kinds of projects. It could be from a lot of research type projects to a lot of hands-on projects. Right now, my main focus is project-based learning, and that's one of those areas that I just continue to explore more often because I feel like it's one of the best teaching strategies that I've got right now that really affect my kids.
Project-based learning.
Yes.
I'm writing it down. That seems to be more and more popular
Yes.
with teachers nowadays, which is great, which is awesome. Now, you mentioned that you wanted to be a middle school teacher from 8th grade.
Yes.
That's remarkable because in my experience, because I taught middle school all my career, and I loved it. I loved it, and like you said, it's a very important time in the lives of kids, lives of human beings. Adolescence. But most teachers that I've spoken to, when they say that they teach middle school, they get that, really? Oh, I'm sorry. Like the ditch digging jobs were all taken. Yeah. So that's cool. That's cool. When that was my goal in life was to teach middle school, mainly because I saw the opportunity to to make a difference in
Hmm.
those kids in that special time of their life. So, very cool, very cool. So you teach gifted students. That's my question. That's why I wanted to have you on the podcast. What distinguishes a gifted student from other students?
Okay. There's a couple things. The first aspect of any gifted child is their IQ. That's generally the first thing. And it's here in the state of Ohio, and in most places, um, they say that a truly gifted student has an IQ of around 130 on up. Uh, I have several of those type of students. They also have some very really cool cognitive traits. Like for example, they have an awesome memory. My students can describe you to a T, different conversations that they had, or a particular math problem, how they did it, you know, that kind of thing. They also are very good at abstract thinking. They can really wrap their brain around stuff that's more abstract as compared to those that are around them at the same age. Let me see what else they have. They have they great problem solving skills, which is for me that's great because when I do their project based learning, I try really hard to incorporate some of real life's real interesting problems. They're very observant. The one thing that is amazing is when you can tell a gifted kid right off the bat is their vocabulary. They have a great command of the English language, and it's great to listen to them talk with each other. Um, they read a lot. They ask a lot of questions. Then they learn very quickly, and that's some of the things that are about gifted kids. That, for one, that I absolutely love. So I'm so intrigued by these students. Every day they teach me more and more about not only who gifted kids are, but about themselves and about what kind of teacher I can be.
Awesome, awesome. Now, is this something that is inherent, these abilities, or is it something that is trained at home before they get into school? Or
That's one of the great debates that's kind of going on. I personally believe that's what they're born with. I believe that they're born with this ability, but um, as they are being brought up in the home, either through early childhood education, um, like in a daycare situation, or homeschool to home, I feel like that's where it helps to develop that. But I believe that they're born with those abilities already. The the other the other part of that argument is that they're not born with it, and that it is developed over time. But I personally believe that they are born with it.
interesting, interesting. Well, as a gifted teacher, how do you teach students who are identified as gifted? I mean, is there a different way of teaching them that you would maybe another class full of kids?
I, not not particularly. The one thing that I have found while when trying to teach a gifted kid, even before I was trained, like when I was a regular education teacher, I did that for the first 7 years of my career. Um, when I had these kids, I found that their work was they were able to get this work done quickly, and so I had learned that I had to give them extension problems, not to give them more work, because that's the first thing that a lot of teachers do. They'll say, you've got done, you can do, you did these 20 problems in about 10 minutes. It takes the rest of the class 30 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you another 15 problems. Yeah, I learned that that's not the best way for these kids. The best way for these kids is to stretch them, to get them to use those cognitive skills that they have and help develop those. And that's not by just giving them extra worksheets or things like that, but actually getting them problems to work on. And that's That's how you reach these kids. You've got to give them something that where they think about. The mundane kinds of problems and activities that they do will bore them, and eventually, at some point, they're going to become a discipline problem because they're the ones that will, if your class isn't hard enough, I'm gonna say hard, but challenging enough for these guys, then they're gonna be a problem because their work's gonna get done very quickly, and then they're gonna have nothing else to do. So, the idea is to give them not more work, but challenging work.
Yeah, and have in eighth grade, middle school, seventh, eighth grade, that downtime can lead to a lot of problems. The kid
Oh, it
doesn't
really can.
it doesn't have
Abs-
stuff to do. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
well, that was my next question. How would you respond to even parents or other teachers who would say just give them more work? Being in a gate class means, or in a gifted class, that means you're getting more work.
Well, that's actually one of the things I try here in my building when I talk to the staff here when we'll have these collaborative meetings periodically. That's the one thing I stress to them is to not to give them more work, but to give them more challenging work. The flack that I get is that they'll teachers tell me, well, I'm creating a whole nother lesson for two kids. Well, to me is I think every kid deserves a valuable education, and if it means for you to take a little more time in developing a lesson or developing a small project where these kids could work on it and grow, then that's what you have to do. And that's part of what my role here is that I feel like my job is not only to teach gifted kids, but I also have to try and be a resource for the teachers in the building because they're only with me for a small amount of time. They're with me 20% of the time. They're with their regular teachers for 80%. So I have to be that open resource for them to come to me as well to give them, whatever advice that they need, ideas for extension lessons. In the regular classroom, you know, they have to have they have to have an outlet to use that mind. The gifted kids, they love using their mind. They want to be creative. Um, they want to be challenged. And so I keep telling the teachers that if you want to get these kids involved in your class, give them a challenge, and they'll come up to it.
Yeah, well, that's what the podcast is all about here, Jeff, is providing more resources. And having you on the podcast just provides another resource, especially for those teachers who are trying to figure out the best way to teach or to reach these gifted students. So, again, thank you for sharing your insights, and thank you for
I
your blog.
appreciate
Your blog is a great place for teachers to go to find information on how to teach students who are identified as gifted.
I appreciate that. I really do. I look forward to this all day to talking to you. So
Oh, awesome. Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, Jeff, the purpose of the podcast is to sit down with amazing teachers like yourself and pick their brains for tips, strategies, and ideas that new teachers can take into the classroom and be amazing. And I know that in your experience, you've run across many amazing teachers. Can you tell us what are some qualities that you have discovered are common in amazing teachers?
okay, some of those are being passionate. That's the first thing. You have to love what you do. And another trait is when passionate teachers are passionate about what they're doing, it's not hard work. It's fun. And teachers who are having fun, they reach their kids. Um, I had in the past, I had some amazing teachers, particularly in the area of social studies, science, and math. Those are the teachers that really reached me, and all of them they were real people. They they let you know this was an area they struggled with, or this was an area that just really turned their crank and they loved it. And when that excitement went from them to me, um, that's what amazing teachers. I was inspired by that, and so another characteristic is being able to inspire students to go beyond what they think that they can already do. That's that's what I think it is to be an amazing teacher is to to reach these kids and push them beyond what they think that they can already do to do something that can be so amazing. Um, and I see it every day. Um, I see some amazing teachers that I work with that can challenge kids, and to take a kid, particularly any kid, any middle school kid can be challenging, but to find a kid who thinks their limit is so short, and then to push them beyond it and let them see that, that's amazing. And that's what I love about teaching.
That's great. And being able to inspire students to go beyond what they think they can do.
Yeah.
That's great. Great characteristic of an amazing teacher. Thank you for that, Jeff. Um, Many new teachers, even some veteran teachers, struggle with classroom management. And being in middle school, that seems to be a big topic in middle school for new teachers, especially. What advice would you offer new teachers who may be struggling with classroom management?
The first thing is you got to have a routine. Middle school kids, they love routines. They don't like to have to guess what's next, especially when it's an everyday situation. So having that set routine, or using keywords so the kids know when to transition from one time to another time, is important. Again, I have my kids 5 hours a day, so I have to keep my classroom moving. And so my kids know I use a lot of sounds. I use a lot of keywords for moving from one activity to another. I do feel that you've got to have your rules and responsibilities posted in your room somewhere so that the kids know what's acceptable and what's not. You've got to be consistent. Consistency is a key term. Um, it doesn't matter how you feel. If you're not feeling well and something can just get on your nerves, you can't let that get in your way of being consistent with your students, because their behavior can be so unpredictable, but you have to be as predictable as possible.
That's great. Their behavior can be unpredictable, but you have to be as predictable as possible. That's great. That's a great quote right there. Uh, yeah, I mentioned in my blog that teachers have to avoid coming into the classroom in a bad mood because it's going to mess up the whole atmosphere. And even if things happen, you get caught in traffic or something that really ruins your morning, you can't let that come. You can't let that affect that consistency that you talk of.
Right. I agree with that. I really do. Being that being that positive role model every day is something that these kids not only that I feel they need, but they deserve that, because the teacher sets the mood for the entire classroom, and those kids feed off that. If you're in a bad mood, you're going to have some kids who are they're going to be in bad moods.
All right.
So you've just got to be be positive, and just I tell my kids I got to be real, and I tell them I'm gonna be real with you. I was this happened this morning. I'm a little off, but I'm gonna get right back on the train. We're gonna keep on moving forward. We're gonna have a great day, and I try and put whatever I had outside my classroom door, so that when I'm in here, I'm focused on these guys, and I feel like if you can do that and you teach with with your intensity, and you forget what you had outside your door, you're gonna have a great day. And 9 times out of 10, I think I have a pretty great day. I have great students every day. They know I'm not perfect, but they do know I'm real, and that's a big to me. That's a big deal.
That's
They got to
great.
know I'm human.
That's great. Leave it outside the door. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. If you could sit down with a new teacher, Jeff, just starting out in their career and had time for just one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be?
Take risks. I can remember when I was beginning in my career, I tried to be safe, and I don't think I did a very good job at taking risks at with different activities, or But you take risks, step outside your comfort zone. I found that when you do that, like when I do that, I'm nervous. I get real nervous stepping out of my comfort zone, and I try and use that nervousness in a positive way. And I feel as a new teacher, if you can take some risks, get out of your comfort zone, not only will you be challenged, but you're going to see that translate into some of your students' work. They're going to begin to take some risks. Um, my classroom, we do a lot of presentations. Like I want my kids to tell the other kids what they learned. And I have a lot of kids who are. I have some that they're shy. I mean, my classes aren't very big. By state law, I can only have 15 kids at a time. So it's not a big crowd, but even if it was two or three, they still get really nervous. So when they see me taking risks in front of them, a lot of times they will also begin to take risks and stepping out of their comfort zone. It's like modeling, but I feel like taking a risk is probably one of the best things I've ever done. And once I was comfortable in my own teaching, I did that. But if I would have started that earlier, I think I may be a little bit farther into my repertoire of activities.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. So, Jeff, what is happening now in your life that you are excited about?
There's a couple things. One is the this whole thing I'm trying this year with project-based learning. I've read some great books, particularly one that I would suggest your viewers read, and it's by Todd Stanley. It's called Project-Based Learning for Gifted Kids and Gifted Students. I'm sorry, and it's a handbook for project-based learning. It's fantastic. A lot of different resources. He's a teacher here in Ohio. He really changed how I viewed doing projects. That's the big thing. That's one. The other one is the activity that I've been doing on my blog lately. I love it's really turned me on quite a bit. I don't know why, but it just seems like as lately I'm finding more inspiration with my students. I blog a lot about what I do in my classroom. Some aspects of that. And my students have just really been on fire lately, and it has really inspired me to write about some of that stuff. But one thing that I've been doing lately is I started this in February, and it's called on Twitter. You can find a hashtag. It's called the hashtag at GTBlogHop. And what I'm doing is I'm correlating blog links. It's kind of like a some people call it a link up, where you would come up with a topic and you would have volunteers share their post. You kind of link them all together, so that when someone is trying to find a particular topic, they could find it because you've got all your blog links all linked up together. And I once a month I have a different topic. This month is about rejuvenating your curriculum. What are you doing to inspire your students to keep going, finish the year out strong? And you can find I do that. I post just reminders periodically throughout the month, and at the end of the month, I'll post up all the links. Hasn't quite taken off yet, but I know that it will. I have faith in that, because I think that it's one thing that's missing. There are so many great blogs out there, so many. I've read yours, and there's some great stuff on there, and I pass it along. And it's nice to have when you've got a theme going where you've got different views from 5 or 10 or 20 different people on the same topic. It's amazing what you can learn, and I've learned a lot lately about that. So that's the one thing that I those are a couple things that I'm just really passionate about right now.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, and I will make sure I add a link to Todd Stanley's book, and along with that, the hashtag. on the show notes for this episode. So
Appreciate that.
great idea there. Is there anything else, Jeff, that you want to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Jeff_Shoemaker. You've got a link to my blog. It's Ramblings of a Gifted Teacher at .wordpress.com. I've enjoyed this a lot. Really have. I've never done this before as a podcast, so this is fantastic. I want to thank you very much for offering me to come up and speak with you today. I really do appreciate that.
Oh, that's my pleasure. Thank you for sharing your insights. Again, the idea of teaching students who are gifted, you just need to have particular skills to do that. And again, you're a great resource, and I'm sure new teachers especially, can find great takeaways from this interview and from your blog. Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure getting to meet you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Hey, thank you.
So to the listeners, I know you've received a lot of great information in this episode. Now it's up to you to take it back to your classroom and implement what you learned today. So until next time,
be amazing.
The Amazing Teacher Podcast is brought to you by SuccessInTheClassroom.com. Learn more about being an amazing teacher by visiting SuccessInTheClassroom.com or TheAmazingTeacher.com.